Hey there, Steve Conrad here with Fit Culture Studio. Today I'd like to talk to you about static stretching, what it is, why it's important, and how to do it properly. So static stretching is the type of stretching most people are familiar with, where you're holding a specific stretch for an extended period of time, maybe 10 to 20 seconds. Now static stretching is important, especially after exercise, because during an exercise, what you're doing is constantly contracting your muscles. Now that constant contraction is going to, over time, shorten the muscle fibers. Whether you're doing a bench press, you're running, you're doing curls, any type of athletic movement, you're shortening those muscles over and over whenever you engage those muscles. So what you want to do after your exercise is elongate those muscle fibers so that that constant contraction and shortening of the fibers doesn't accumulate over time and end up leading to mobility, flexibility, and joint movement issues. So what you want to do for static stretching is do it after your workout, when everything's been warmed up, engaged, and utilized. Now, contrary to popular belief, you don't want to do it before your workout, because before your workout, it's actually been shown to lead to an increased chance of injury rather than a decrease, as well as a decreased performance output rather than an increase. Now the reason for that is all of the muscles in the body are encased in what's called a fascial tissue. Now that fascia helps stabilize and coordinate your movements. However, if you stretch it and elongate it for too long of a period of time, you lose some of that stability and some of that stabilization within the muscles, and then you go to do any type of athletic movement like running, jumping, sprinting, anything like that. Your muscles are going to be much less stable, and you're actually going to risk reducing the performance because they're not stable and coordinated in the same way, or you can increase your chance of injury because those fibers may be too elongated and not as supportive. So what I want to do now is I want to walk you through some of these static stretches for each muscle group in the body. Now after each workout, you don't want to do all of the static stretches. You only need to do the ones for the areas you've worked out that day. But I'm going to go through all of them today so that you can pick and choose whichever ones apply to your workout and implement them accordingly. So the first, we're going to start with the shins. Anytime you do a running activity, anytime you have dorsal flexion with that foot flexed up, you're going to be engaging that shin muscle. So it's always good to stretch it out a little afterwards. So what you're going to do is place the foot toe down right behind you and pull down and forward until you feel a stretch along the front of that shin. If you're not quite feeling the stretch, you can also drop the ankle out a little bit or bring it in, just getting a slightly different torque on that shin muscle and getting that stretch feeling. And then you would switch over to the other side, holding each one of them for about 10 to 20 seconds. After that, the next muscle group we're going to go to is the calf. For the calf, we're going to go into a downward dog. All you're going to do is press one heel down towards the ground and take the other foot and wrap it behind your ankle and hold 10 to 20 seconds. And then switch. Next, we're going to work our way up the body and go to the hamstring. Now the hamstring is usually engaged anytime you're doing a lower body workout. It can be lunges, squats, it can be running. Anytime you're going to do your hamstrings, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit them from two different angles. Now the reason is the hamstring actually has multiple connection points, both in the hip and the knee, and you also have muscles surrounding it that could potentially be tight and inhibiting you from getting a stretch directly on that hamstring. So stretching from multiple different directions will actually help engage and stretch those muscle fibers a little bit more completely. So the first one is going to be a basic hanging down, one leg crossed in front of the other with a slight bend. You're going to be stretching that rear leg and just fold forward. Now you'll notice my back is still flat. You don't want to lean all the way forward just to increase that range of motion. You just want to get that stretch in the hamstring. The difference between this and this is absolutely nothing on the hamstring. You're simply adding a bend to the back, which you don't need to do. So keep that chest up, lean forward as much as possible, and just hold. Switch over to the other side. And hold each side 10 to 20 seconds. The next, you're going to separate the legs apart fairly wide. Keep both legs straight with a very soft bend in the knee, and then lean all the way to one side. This is going to hit the hamstring at a slightly different angle and give you a more thorough stretch. And then the other side, holding each 10 to 20 seconds. From there, we're going to shift from the hamstrings onto the quads. For the quads, you have a couple different options, one standing, one sitting. We'll start with the standing option. What you're going to do is grab one ankle, pull it back behind you. If you need the stability, you can grab onto a wall to stabilize yourself. Otherwise, as you pull the heel back, you're going to push the hips forward so that you really feel that stretch down the front of the leg. And then switch, holding each side 10 to 20 seconds. Now, an alternate way to stretch the quad would be sitting on the ground. You're going to take one leg, pull it back behind the hips, and then walk your hands back as far as you can comfortably until you feel a nice stretch down that quad. And you would just hold the same amount of time, 10 to 20 seconds, and switch over to that other side. Then we're going to move into the groin and adductor muscles. For this one, we're going to do a butterfly. You're going to pull your heels in as close as you can and keep the knees down as far as you can, really opening up that hip and groin area. Also, think tall posture. Take that chest, bring it up, roll the shoulders back, and try and sit nice and tall as you get in your butterfly position. If you need a little extra stretch, you can grab your shins or feet with your hands and pull your chest forward and down, which will get you a little bit more of a stretch in on that groin. A second groin exercise, which you can do standing, is a lateral lunge, which is also going to help get that adductor muscle. With this one, you're going to have a nice wide stance, shift the hips back, and drop one knee or your hips down towards one knee, really getting a stretch on the inside of that straight leg. And holding 10 to 20 seconds, switching over to that other side. Now, with all of these stretches, you don't need to force the range of motion. You only want to do what's comfortable. So really listen to your body. If you can't make it as deep into a movement as I can, that's fine. If you can make it deeper, feel free to push your body a little deeper. Really listen to your relative flexibility and only do what your body is capable of. Now, as we move our way up, we're going to now shift to the glutes. For the glutes, you're going to be seated on the ground. You're going to straighten one leg out, take the opposite ankle, place it behind your knee, and pull that knee in until you feel a stretch on that leg closest to your chest. If you need a little extra stretch, you can take your hands and push your chest forward and up, really getting a little deeper into that hip joint. And then switching to the other side. Now, if you're really flexible with this stretch, you can also do an alternative, which I call a figure 7. With this, you're going to have one leg bent on the ground and actually take the other leg behind you like so and lean forward onto that bent leg. Or from the other side, folding it forward and really letting yourself lean onto that. Now, like I said, this is more of an advanced stretch for that glute, so only if you feel comfortable getting into this position should you try it. Otherwise, just sit back and do the stretch that I showed you just previous. All right, so now we're going to shift up the body a little bit. We're going to get into the abdomen, the hip flexors, and then the obliques. So for the hip flexors and the abdomen, you're going to step into a lunge position and drop those hips forward. That's really going to get into that hip flexor muscle. Or from the side, what it'll look like. So you get in that lunge position and drop those hips forward. If you want to add the abdominal muscles to this, you can take your hands, cross them together, and lean up and back, getting a stretch into that abdomen. And you can do the same with the other side. Now, if you're doing that abdominal stretch, only hold it for about 5 seconds because you really don't want to stack those vertebrae. You want to be pulling up and back rather than just folding back, and that can be hard to hold for a really extended period of time. If you do that stretch, hold it for about 5 seconds, give yourself a rest, and go back into it again for about 5 more. And you can do that 2 to 4 times rather than holding it 10 to 20 seconds straight. Now, moving from the hip flexors and abdomen out to the obliques. For this one, you're going to do what's called a cherry picker, where you're going to stand up, spread the feet about shoulder width distance apart, and just reach up and across the body, elongating that whole side. Really trying to feel it right near that hip and abdominal region, right on the oblique. Back up, and the other side, holding each 10 to 20 seconds. Now our next exercise that we're going to be doing is we're going to be stretching the upper body. So first for that shoulder, you're going to take one arm, hold it across the body, and just pull on that shoulder, trying to get a good stretch right there. And hold for 10 to 20 seconds. Switch over to the other side. Now for stretching the tricep, you're going to take the arm, place it right behind your head, and pull that elbow down and back, really trying to get elongation through that tricep muscle. And then switch. Another good upper body stretch to really get some elongation through those shoulders is to take the hands, bring them behind the back, and interlock the fingers. Once the fingers are interlocked, you're going to lean forward and bring those hands up and over, allowing gravity to sort of take hold and give you a little extra stretch. Now, if you have a mobility issue or you can't reach your hands, you can use a strap or a rope, anything that's going to offer you firm tension. Grab narrow behind your back as best you can. If you can't reach those hands, reach as close as you can to that. And do the same thing, folding forward, allowing those arms to come back. Now the final stretch I want to show you for the upper body before we move on to the forearms is going to be the pec. Now for the pec, you're going to want to go up against a wall, so I'm going to walk to this back wall to show you this one. What we're going to do on this is take one hand flat and place it against the wall. Then what you're going to do is twist away from that arm, allowing that shoulder and chest to open up. Now with this one, I always prefer doing 2 separate angles. So after you hold this for 10 to 20 seconds, raise the hand up 12 inches and rotate under it one more time. That'll hit that pec, shoulder, and bicep connection all at a slightly different angle and should give you a much fuller stretch. And other side. Holding for 10 to 20 seconds and then moving it up. Same thing. All right, our final 2 stretches are going to be wrist stretches. Now wrist stretches are important, especially if you're doing any type of movements like push-ups or front squats, anything where you get a lot of wrist action involved. You want to be sure you're stretching and getting those wrists nice and loosened up so that you don't end up developing mobility issues within that joint. So the first, you're just going to take your fingers and pull them back towards your forearm and hold 15 to 20 seconds, and then pulling them the other direction towards the front of your forearm, and doing that on both sides. All right, we've now done a basic stretch on just about every muscle group through the body. So pick whichever ones apply to the workout that you're doing, and really remember to get those stretches in after you've finished your workout once everything is nice and warm, because that's going to help improve your mobility, improve your flexibility, and over time reduce your chance of injury and movement compensations. So until next time, hope to see you soon.